That's why I love the fitness analogy. Like, you don't put in the reps, you're not going to get the results. You're just not. You can't think them. You can't strategize them. You can't read about push-ups. You can't talk about doing push-ups. You have to do fucking push-ups. You have to post and you have to engage.
It's all right, we got like 30 seconds. By the way, Dan, I'm getting my first Brazilian wax on Thursday. My girlfriend said she wanted me to try it. What? Welcome back to No Bullshit Fitness News, where we don't believe in political correctness, just facts, coffee, and deadlifts. We got a great episode for you tonight. First and foremost, talking to Gary Vaynerchuk, a one-on-one uncut interview just for you. We've also got Dr. LAYNE NORTON coming in to discuss artificial sweeteners and dispelling the myths associated with both your health and your fat loss. We're talking glute engagement, how to recruit your glutes, and we're gonna finish off with a rapid fire Q&A from my Instagram. If you don't follow me, you can do that here. Let's get into it. This episode of NBSFN brought to you by Unicorn Magic Coffee. Full disclosure, my coffee company, the best coffee in the world. And if you want to try your own magical unicorn coffee, you can go to the description in the bio. Not only get a light, medium, or dark roast, but you could also get your hands on this amazing coffee mug. Artificial sweeteners have been a hot button topic lately, with people making claims like they will give you cancer, ruin your gut microbiome, and put a halt to your fat loss efforts. So to find out the truth, we had an interview with Dr. LAYNE NORTON to discuss the claims associated with artificial sweeteners and find out the truth. And now joining us live from Tampa Bay is PhD Dr. LAYNE NORTON. LAYNE, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Jordan?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us on last minute notice. What we want to talk about tonight is we want to get your opinion on artificial sweeteners. And basically there's two sides of the coin, as you know. There's the side of the coin in terms of their actual dangers, the health effects associated with them, but also whether or not artificial sweeteners impact fat loss, your ability to lose fat. So let's talk about the dangers and health effects first. What does the research say on the effects, the health effects of artificial sweeteners?
I know that I read Google last night, and Google told me that they're going to kill me.
That's what Google tells me too, so I'm glad Google's telling us the same thing.
I'm just kidding. It's a very interesting question, and my background originally, I did not have any artificial sweeteners when I first got into bodybuilding because I was told the same thing, that it would negatively impede my body composition goals and it was bad for my health. The only research that shows that they are bad in terms of health effects is if you're a rat and getting enormous doses of like 1,000 times the normal amount of artificial sweetener that you'd ever get in, like, say, a diet drink or something like that. In fact, most of the side effects, quote unquote, that you would get from artificial sweeteners, you would actually drown from drinking so much diet soda. You would dilute your electrolytes and literally drown yourself before you'd ever get to a level where it would produce side effects. Now, there's been a lot of people coming out recently saying, but what about my gut microbiome, because the studies say it's bad for it. The studies don't say that. The studies show that if you take artificial sweeteners, it can change your gut microbiome flora. But any kind of dietary change that so far that we've observed impacts the gut microbiome in some way. What we do not know is that change a negative or positive? As far as body composition goes, there's really no evidence that they negatively impact body composition. There is correlation data showing that people who are fatter tend to take in more artificial sweeteners, but I mean, it's kind of the comparison of the person who goes to McDonald's, orders the Big Mac and fries, and then gets a Diet Coke, right? So correlation is not necessarily causation. And actually, when they've done controlled intervention studies, there was a study looking at comparing water versus diet drinks, and actually found the group using diet drinks lost a little bit more weight. So, I mean, again, I don't think that they're like a fat burner or anything like that, but perhaps by using artificial sweeteners or a diet drink, the people were more satiated or something like that, ended up eating less. But we certainly can't make the claim that they're a negative for body comp.
So to clarify, based on the current research, there's nothing showing that for fat loss, artificial sweeteners are going to impede your progress. In fact, there is research showing that it might actually help your progress if you're substituting that lower calorie, 0 calorie drink for something that you might have been having a higher calorie version of. And in terms of health, there's nothing thus far showing that in any appropriate health, in any appropriate portion, it's going to have a negative side effect for your health. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say, well, there's nothing wrong with them. We can 100% say they're safe, but we can't really 100% say that darn near anything is safe. So I would be very confident in saying there's not any compelling data to say that they're not safe. So now people will say, well, what about, the research is not looking at long-term. Well, they've been around. I mean, aspartame has been around well over 50 years, probably closer to 70 years. So, I mean, that kind of argument usually is by people when they say something, we don't know for sure, things haven't been around long enough. When something doesn't fit their bias, they just say, well, we haven't studied it long enough, so that they can make an excuse as to why the research data doesn't show what they'd like it to show. People make the mistake of thinking I'm endorsing artificial sweeteners. I think it's personal dependent. Some people have GI distress from artificial sweeteners. They should probably limit them. Some people, they get a craving for something sweet. They have something sweet and it kind of feeds that craving and they actually end up over consuming. They probably shouldn't use it. But I know for myself, if I have a diet drink, it actually helps my hunger for a while, especially when I'm dieting down. Yeah, there's a lot of research to suggest that stretch, and especially with like a carbonated drink, something like that can actually help with short-term satiety. It doesn't seem to impact long-term satiety, but it does impact short-term satiety. So again, I think it's person dependent. And you brought up a really good point. What are you replacing things with? Whenever we're discussing something, whether it's good or bad, it should always be compared to what? There's a lot of claims out there people make, well, this burns fat, or this builds muscle, or this does this. And the question the audience should always ask themselves is, compared to what? Because you have to compare it to something. If we look at artificial sweeteners, if it's somebody that eats a healthful diet and is just taking in artificial sweeteners on top of that, are they more healthy for it? Maybe, probably not. But they're probably not that much worse off. But if we're talking about somebody who is used to eating 200 grams of sugar a day, and now they cut it down to 50 because they're cutting out 3 full sugar sodas, are they having a net positive impact on their health? Probably. It all depends on what you're comparing it to.
And I think Layne, one of the things that I've always been a fan of your work about is you are very adamant about focusing on the individual. And like you said, if it causes GI distress, don't have it. If it makes you more hungry, don't drink it. But for you, the overarching component is just because it might not work for you does not give you the right to demonize it as a whole. And that's really where people run into disingenuous commentary when they're saying things like, well, they're bad altogether and they definitively cause cancer, which is what I think you're trying to speak out against, is that, well, listen, there's no conclusive data showing that it does cause cancer. There's no conclusive data saying that it does cause fat gain. That, in fact, we know that it, as far as the preponderance of the research to date, it doesn't show that at all. And if it helps you, great. If it doesn't help you, that's fine too. But we can't just collectively demonize something just because some people don't like it. Layne, I really want to say thank you for joining us. This was a very, very educational and insightful segment. Where can people find you if people want to look more into your work?
Sure. So the best place to find me is my website, biolayne.com, BIOLAYNE. I also have a new fat loss book out that basically is 400 pages of me crushing bullshit in the diet industry. And you actually gave me a really nice review of that book. And I'm just very proud of it. And people want to find that, they can go to howtolosefatforever.com. And then my social media is all BioLayne. So Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff is BioLayne.
Layne, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you, George. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on artificial sweeteners. Tell us in the comment section, what do you think? If you have any links to research, tell us from your personal experience how artificial sweeteners have affected you. We'd love to continue the discussion in the comments section. Moving on, we're going to talk about glute activation and recruitment, basically how to activate your glutes. It's a big buzzword in the fitness industry among personal trainers, and we want to show you exactly how to do it. And to do this, we have none other than our gym correspondent, Johnny Bag of Donuts. Johnny, talk to us about glute recruitment.
Hey Jordan, before we start, Johnny, you think I should get a tan on my inner thigh? I feel like it's just
Johnny,
a little bit too
we
white.
are live.
Oh, then I guess we'll pick this up after the segment. What's going on, everybody? Today we are talking about glute activation, or what all these personal trainers call it, engaging your glutes, activating your glutes, as though there's like some kind of a button. Okay, we're gonna push the activator button, we're gonna pull the activation lever. When personal trainers are telling you to activate your glutes, it grinds my gears, because like, you can't fucking just say activate it. Okay, activate your glutes, engage your glutes. I don't know what this is, but it's pissing me off because it doesn't tell you what to do. So I'm going to give you some real life, practically applicable, cues to make sure your glutes are engaged. Cue number one, we got Passover coming up. It's a great Jewish holiday, and if you haven't heard about it, one of the foods you eat is matzah. It's a very thin bread-like substance, very easy to crack. If you're doing a hip thrust, for example, one thing I tell all of my Jewish clients, I'm Jewish just so you know, when you get to the top, imagine you had a piece of matzah in between your butt cheeks. I don't know why you had some matzah in your butt cheeks, but let's just say you did, because it's Passover. Maybe you had a little bit too much manischewitz, had a little too much fun. You have some matzah in your butt cheeks. I want you to try and break the matzah. Break it. Boom. Activation. That's the activation, engage glutes. You're not breaking it. You're breaking it. That's activation. The other cue you could think about, if, for example, you're not eating matzah, is let's say you have a buddy. You know, everybody has one buddy who's always trying to like put their finger in your butt. I don't know, my buddy Brian does it all the time. And Brian's always like, hey, what's up? I'm like, imagine you don't want Brian to put his finger in your butt. When you do that movement, the don't put it in, Brian, that is the activation movement. So don't, Brian, boom, activated, down. Don't, Brian, that's the activation. So next time, whether you're a personal trainer or you're just trying to figure out how to activate your glutes, either try and break the matzah or don't let Brian stick his thumb in your bum. That's how you activate your glutes. Now, Jordan, before you finish, could we just go back to my inner thigh tan? What do you think about that?
You know what, Johnny? You and I are going to have to talk about your thighs when we're not live on air. But if you think Johnny should get a tan, give the video a thumbs up, because holy hell, you've got some pasty whites there, man. What the f***? Anyway, moving on to the next segment, we've got a one-on-one uncut interview with none other than Gary Vaynerchuk. And joining us now is Gary Vaynerchuk, needs no introduction, the social media guru. I also train him. How's it going, Gary?
Tremendous. I hate being called guru.
Anyway, a lot of people were asking Gary questions, a lot of personal trainers were asking Gary questions about how to grow their Instagram for their business. And so basically we were wondering for your top 3 tips to help personal trainers grow their Instagram, not just for their business, but to also have a better impact, to help more people, and to also grow their business in time.
Number one, I actually think the best way to grow your Instagram is to not focus on growing your Instagram, because what ends up happening is you get into short-term behavior. I actually think that the fitness space has been the most interesting to me as somebody who talks about marketing, because they're so good at understanding patience and tried and true and doing the right things in the gym, yet they're looking for the shortcuts for all the stuff they make fun of, celery juice, the vinegar stuff, you know, bullshit tactics, you know, like tummy, like tire thing, like they make fun of all the shortcuts in fitness, yet immediately they go into Instagram world where they're insecure and they want it fast, and they go into follow, unfollow, or buying fans. Rule number 1, don't worry about growing your Instagram. Rule number 2, I think it's about putting out content that actually brings value. And I think value, if you look at Instagram, comes from the form of entertainment or education. Okay. If you really look at it, and you look at anybody who's really winning organically, they're either entertaining or they're educating. Now, entertainment comes in all forms. You know, a form of entertainment is just being super attractive, a model. A form of entertainment is being funny. You see a lot of the humor stuff going, right? Highlights from sports. So there's a lot of ways to entertain. Music. We know the pillars of entertainment. And then there's education. And you know, that's what I do, and I think a lot of other people do. As a matter of fact, being very meta, when you said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? I'm like, ooh, that has a real shot. And the reason I did is I think the ultimate is entertainment and education in one place. If you can educate in an entertaining way, it crushes. I think in a weird way I do that because of my style, and I think you're doing that in this kind of format. So entertainment and education. And then finally, to round it up, the biggest impact, look, I don't get to decide. I'm not the Lord. Nobody gets to decide, but I do think this. I think you have to be able to put your head on your pillow, right? Like whatever your moral compass is, however you see your integrity needs to play out. So many of you build huge audiences, and there's an excitement to sell something real quick and make 800,000 or 50,000 or promote a product you actually don't believe in because there's things in there that, you know, chemicals or things in there that you don't believe in, but damn it, $100,000 sounds real good because you want to go to Coachella and you want to go buy this new car. Are you willing to fold your integrity and your morals for cash? Is an incredibly interesting thing, something that I'm extremely proud of, the way that I've navigated in comparison to many that look like me, whether they're selling bullshit things or promoting bullshit things or creating a false, I mean, there are literally entrepreneurs out there that jump fences to take a photo with a private plane and then like you know, just fake it till you make it, just shit that I don't believe in. So ultimately, are you capable of putting your head on your pillow? What is your moral compass? What is your North Star? And then let the words and the actions come out of that. That's how you leave a good impact. There's so much faking going on Instagram right now. There's so much fucking faking, and I highly recommend you be part of that 1 to 3% that isn't faking it.
I love that, thank you. And just briefly, I want to share a story. When I first started with Gary, probably within the first 3 months, got off a plane with Gary and D-Rock, and one of the things you said to me was after this plane ride, we landed around midnight or something, and you came up to me and you said, how much harder are you working now than before you started working with me? And it was one of those big moments where I was just like, geez, like I thought I was working hard before, and then when I started hanging out with you and hanging out in your ecosystem around people who really worked, I realized I wasn't working as hard as I thought I was. And had you told me that before, I would have gotten angry. I was like, I'm working really hard. But then when I saw what it was like to really put in a lot of effort, it changed everything, which led to Gary telling me post 3 times a day, every day. The first time you said that, I only posted twice. And then and he was like, you didn't post 3 times. And then every day thereafter for the next 10 months, posted 3 times a day, every day. I would say on top of that, everything that he said, that's like the groundwork, the pillar. But the thing that really made the next jump for me was you can have all the greatest content and the best stuff in the world, but if you're not frequently putting content out there, it's not going to make a difference, and that's one of the biggest lessons you taught me.
The other thing is, you were in the mindset at this point that a lot of people were, which was based on your business model of how you were training virtually, you were in sales mode, not brand mode.
That's right.
I'll never forget this. Like, it was like, you know, it's kind of like when you just see it different, like, you're like you were framed like so many people here are, in a way where it's like short-term sales. Like, what did this email blast convert to?
That's right.
Everything was transactional.
Right.
And you're like, well, what do I put out? Instagram's hard when you're thinking about sales. Instagram's easy when you're thinking about brand. And that also allowed you to open up into a lot of your personalities, which I'm sure people have learned, which is you are disproportionately like into humor, you know, and it opens when you're posting 3 times a day and you're trying to bring value and every post isn't transactional. Now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to actually build an audience. Everybody else is trying to sell them. The person that's actually trying to romance them and build a relationship and give without expectations. There's nothing wrong with asking for a coffee sale or a sneaker sale or a wine sale, but when you don't have expectation that they're going to convert, when all your other posts aren't there just to get that to happen, all of a sudden the universe, the karma is aligned up.
It's so interesting, and we'll wrap this up really quick, but that piece of advice in terms of, Gary says this a lot, he says to give without expectation. I think it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to really internalize it. And when I first started working with him, I was very much in that transactional mode. I wouldn't say every post, but a lot of my posts were done with the expectation of something in return.
Posting. You didn't even think social was a viable option. You were in such sales mode. You were like email, which I love email.
Right.
But you know, like even
Yes.
the framework of social was like, well, what's it for? Like, you know, I post a YouTube video. I don't see any sales. And there's nothing, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being in sales. You're just going to be limited. Nike's not in sales. Peloton's not in sales.
Right.
Like the things that actually fucking really win, I'm not in sales. That's why I'm crushing Instagram.
It's true, and I think the best part of this, one of the biggest lessons for me, was number one,
Well,
to
the best
actually.
part is this weird little thing my hair's doing, because like, you know, you're just like, let's train and let's do it.
In addition to realizing, actually like forcing myself to actually realize I wasn't giving I wasn't giving just to give. I was giving with the expectation of something in return. And when I started giving to give and focusing on my content to help people, I enjoyed it so much more. And it became so much more fun. It became so much more why I got into it in the first place. I think so many personal trainers, they just want to sell, 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 and then they lose sight of why they started personal training in the first place, which was to help people. And that really allowed me to enjoy my job so much more and took the pressure off, which then led to more sales, but not because I was asking for it, just because people wanted to support me. And that's why I'm so grateful.
I think you also have to find what makes you click. So for me, I'm an extrovert to the 11th degree, and I just genuinely, like, even walking in the streets of New York, look in people's faces, smile, want to say hello. That's why social worked for me. I wouldn't call, you're pretty extroverted, but I wouldn't call you, like, you have introverted aspects of yourself as well. I think the reason for you it went bonkers was you do like being a showman. Mm-hmm. And so you were able to see in the comments almost like a virtual audience.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for you, it was more like being a comedian on stage and like actually interacting with the crowd as you're putting out the content. So for me, I'm a social butterfly. To me, social is like I walk into an 800-person cocktail party and I talk to everybody. That's not you. For you, the reason it worked was you're putting out something as a comedian, and then you're interacting with the crowd during your set. That's how you got into the comments. But most people put out content and leave.
Right.
This is social media. There's a reason it's good to interact. Well, the other thing I told you was like reply to the comments.
Right.
That's how you build an actual community.
Right.
I did that for 5.5 years. Before there was a team behind me, before any of you knew who the hell I was, 2007, 2011, I replied to every tweet, all of them. All of them. Put in the work, right? You can't not put in the, like, that's why I love the fitness analogy. Like, you don't put in the reps, you're not gonna get the results. You're just not. You can't think them, you can't strategize them, you can't read about push-ups, you can't talk about doing push-ups. You have to do fucking push-ups. You have to post and you have to engage.
And just so you know, that analysis of me was so good. I'm a little bit like just stunned right now. He does that like once every 3 months. He'll just say something to me about myself that I didn't even realize, and now I'm just like, fuck. That was really well done. Yeah, so we're gonna end it there. This was amazing. Thank you so much. Love you, Gary. Hope this helped. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Huge thank you to Gary for taking the time for the interview. If you want us to bring him on again, number one, give the video a thumbs up. Number two, leave a comment with a question you would like us to ask him so we can ask him that for you. Now we're gonna move on to the 2-minute drill rapid fire Q&A from my Instagram. We get all the questions from a Q&A I post on my story. If you don't follow me, do it right here so you can ask your question in the next Q&A. 2-minute drill time. We've got the questions up and ready to go. 2 minutes on the clock right now. We're going in 3, 2, 1, and go. Is there such a thing as too much fiber through fruits and vegetables? Yes, there's such a thing as too much or too little of anything. Absolutely. When are you posting your macro video? I'm dying here. Great question. If you didn't see the calorie video, link in the description, and the macro video is coming out later this week. If you don't subscribe, make sure you do already. Favorite ice cream flavor? Mint chocolate chip. Is there really any other flavor? Answer is no. That's the best one. I'm over 50. Does your calorie advice work for my age as well? I'm struggling to lose weight. Yes, it absolutely does. Most important, just try it for 90 days consistently. If it doesn't work, reduce it. Simple as that. Just give it a shot. But yes, it absolutely does work regardless of your age. Let's see. Did you get my email? Here's the thing about the internet. It does work. If I haven't responded yet, I just haven't gotten my email yet, so be patient. Let's see. Do you take supplements? No, not really. Sometimes I take creatine depending on the strength phase. Not right now though, but no, not really. I do not. Let's see. Is it a good idea to count calories? Yes. Let's see. How to reduce facial fat, chubby cheeks. Spoke about that in the last episode of NBSFN, so check that out. We'll put the link in the description. It's about how to spot reduce. You cannot choose. Make sure you watch that. Why are y'all the effing best? Nicole, we love you. Thank you. Lee, or lie, interesting. I don't know what that one meant. Gym for 10 to 15-year-olds, yes or no? Sure, but when you're 10 to 15, the major thing is you should really be focusing on your body weight strength, building that up first. And really, regardless of age, before you should be bench pressing or squatting, you should be mastering your body weight. So 10, 15, 20, 30, 60, doesn't matter. Master your body weight before you start really loading up with heavy weight otherwise. Let's see. What's the number one thing you see that separates mediocrity from exceptionalism in people? That's a hell of a question. We'll have to answer that in the next episode of NBSFN. If you don't subscribe, please do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Leave it a comment below telling us what you think. If we can improve it, tell us what you think so we can make this better for you. Thank you so much for watching. We love you. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. We're off air, right? Like they're not going to hear me? You're sure? Awesome. Back to my Brazilian wax. You're not going to believe this. I got a Groupon for it, 50% off.